If it was piled up in a mountain so high, you'd have to look up to see the top. Don't be stupid, we'll split it evenly. Isn't that the obvious solution? Didn't we say that half of this pile would belong to me and the other half would be split between the four of us? The yells of the humans dancing around the gold reverberated throughout the underground room. In front of the pile of gold, they were arguing about how it should be split. Did you solve the riddle all by yourself, Nissan? You didn't, right? The four of us siblings solved it together. Of course, we'll split it in 4 equal parts. Coward! Weren't you the ones who first made that proposal about the gold's distribution? How can you disregard that so easily? You really think that you're in a position to bargain when you're the ones hiding Dad's death? Yeah. You've been swindling us this whole time, treating Father's wealth as if it were your own. All you need to do is split the gold evenly, and we'll drop all the rest, including that particular issue. It sounds very fair to me. Well, if you insist, go ahead and try splitting it 4 ways. Let's divide this pile up right now, and you can all take your own shares home. I hope you have pockets that can hold 2.5 tons of ingots. It seems you all been driven mad by the gold and lost all ability to make rational judgments. What do you mean by that, Kraus Nissan? Yes, you have rights to the gold, but how are you going to transport it? Give me additional shares of it, and I'll take care of the details. After all, I have the island that actually holds the gold. I mean, normally the bank gets a cut anyway, and at this point, I am the bank. The Bank of Kraus. Look at this ingot. As you can see, there are no official markings, just Father's crest. How do you intend to turn unmarked gold like this into cash? Well, have you finally figured it out? This pile of gold may be worth 20 billion yen. However, that's only if you can trade it for cash. Are any of you capable of exchanging this many unmarked, unidentified ingots for cash at the proper rates? If it was a necklace or a ring, exchanging it for cash would have been a manageable problem. However, doing that for several tons of unmarked gold that couldn't be made public would be impossible for any normal person. However, Kraus could do it. Among the several business friends that remained from Kinzo's generation, there were some who had been black market ties with a lot of financial power. The billion yen tied to the cash card that the Golden Witch had held out a second ago had already been turned to cash thanks to one of Kinzo's connections. However, none of the other siblings had any connections like that. They would have to rely on Kraus to get cash for the gold. Now you're finally seeing it. I apologize for hiding all of those things about Father. However, you're in no position to take advantage of that weakness. Why are you holding a gun? You really think you have such an advantage just because of something like that? Why did you pick up a gun? We don't need to escalate things like that. Why are you holding the gun? What do you intend to do with that gun? Please, you're scaring us. Ava was gripping the gun so hard it looked like it might snap. The 4 guns that the witch had placed in this room were now in the hands of the relatives. Just as the gold had led their hearts astray, it seems these guns had the magical power to turn their hearts to violence. Finally, a scuffle arose between Ava and Kraus. Off to the side, Natsui started arguing with Rudolph and his wife, and the grand underground VIP room was filled with thundering jeers. At least no one's pulling the triggers on those guns. We don't particularly like where this is going, do we, Angie? Everyone's like, are you staring at her boobs too? Yes. Yes, I am. After being forced to watch the scene for so long, Angie's face was starting to contort with pain. It was only natural to be showing this abusive argument between her parents and her other relatives. Well, what on earth? Yeah, it would be pretty startling for Leon. It was painful for Leon too. Leon would have tried to intervene and calm them if that had been possible. The gold isn't going anywhere, right? If you just slow down and think, you'll be able to resolve this. Going by what Ava and the others said, it's clear that they'll need a lot of money before the end of the year. However, the billion-yen cash card should be more than enough to pay for that for everyone. That would handle their emergency expenses so they could then convert the gold to cash at their leisure and just split it amongst themselves. Sure, maybe Kraus was the only one capable of converting the gold. That might give him an advantage over the other siblings. However, this gold couldn't be dealt with by open means. In addition to attracting public attention, it would also lead to various legal problems. It was better for this secret money to remain secret. If they wanted to get the largest portions possible, then they should all agree not to tell anyone about this gold. In other words, to maximize their profits, they would all need to make a gentleman's agreement to keep this secret. Kraus did have a slight advantage. However, it was possible for the other relatives to refuse to cooperate and tell the world about the gold. And then there was also the concealment of Kinzo's death to consider. Kraus was an investor. He needed not only financial clout, but also a certain degree of public confidence in him. His advantage isn't big enough for him to act so overbearing. The mountain of gold has made everyone lose their ability to think rationally. This isn't an argument between adults. It's just a fight between kids. What's so fun about showing us this?